And good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Dr. Alice Reid, and I'm the spiritual director here for Centers for Spiritual Living Capistrano Valley. And I am so happy to greet you on this wonderful anniversary, this birthday for our country. We're celebrating 250 years of independence. Wow, that's pretty auspicious. And for it to fall on a Saturday so people can really celebrate it, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I trust that you've been celebrating all weekend, that you've been whooping it up and doing your thing that you do, whether it's spending some quiet time, to yourself, not a lot of quiet time with all the fireworks, or being with family and friends or neighbors. It's been a time for us to really be together. And we're celebrating our story, right? Our story of independence, where our founding fathers signed that Declaration of Independence, asserting our nationhood, if you will. And in the spirit of this time of independence, I think this story has really served us well. We are indeed a nation of independent thinkers, and while sometimes that's a great thing, sometimes it's a challenging thing, right? As we individually express our independent nature, sometimes it feels like it might bump up against somebody else's independent nature. But in the long run, I think that's what it really takes for us to evolve, that little bit of tension or the challenges that we experience, so that we can really continue to walk forward in a way that is true to our nature as a country. And I think that as we continue to grow up, I mean, we're only 250 years old. I mean, when you look at Europe or other countries, they're much older than we are. I love going to places like Europe, where you have these countries that have been established for thousands of years. We're just a baby. And sometimes we act like it. Ha ha ha. Our theme for the month is wholeness no matter what, embracing what is. And we're going to be looking at this principle of wholeness from a couple of different aspects. And I think that one of the aspects of wholeness sometimes is that we can see where it isn't, right? We can see the places where we're not experiencing wholeness. But I think that even as we look at the birthday of this country, there's always something greater to be revealed, something more to be revealed, some inherentness of wholeness and worthiness that comes through. Now, being a holiday weekend, I was blessed this week by an impromptu visit from my son and his family. They were doing a little drive-by on their way to San Diego to visit my daughter-in-law's family. And we went to Universal Studios. I'd never been there before. You know, having only been in Southern California for 5 years, I still have a lot to see around here. And I got to visit something I'd heard about many, many times and had always been eager to do, and that was to visit the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Yes, it was cool. It was very cool. I was like a little kid. I got a wand. I chose Hermione's wand, you know, and then we rewatched actually my partner David had not seen the Harry Potter movie, so we watched the first one, and as Miss Know-It-All showed up, I'm like, oh God, I did pick Hermione's wand. But it was a lot of fun. They were very interactive. You could stand in front of little storefront windows and do a certain spell, and things would move and turn and jump up, and I did everything twice. So it was a lot of fun. But it reminded me of that powerful allegory of Harry Potter. Now, I know there's been some controversy about the Harry Potter author, but what I will tell you is the story is timeless. The story is our story. It's the story of the hero's journey. It's the Christ story of crucifixion and resurrection. It's the story of the underdog, isn't it? And we love a good story about the underdog and how, they rise above and how they end up triumphant. Everybody loves that kind of story. If you've been watching the World Cup, you've been seeing a lot of that. You've been seeing teams that were ranked really low. All of a sudden, I think it was one team that was ranked 60th that beat USA at one point. So there's always an opportunity. There's always a promise. There's always potentiality. And in Harry Potter's story, what we find out is that in the beginning, he's this 10-year-old boy who lives in the cupboard under the stairs. Lives in the cupboard under the stairs. If you're not familiar with the story, I'll piece it together. It'll work for you. But he doesn't know his legacy. He doesn't know where he's come from. He's living with his aunt's family. And their main deal is that no matter what, they need to appear normal. No matter what. And Harry's not normal. And he's not part of their nuclear family. He doesn't fit in any way, shape, or form. And so they're constantly trying to diminish his light. And they make him sleep in a cupboard under the stairs. And when they have company, they tell him to go into the cupboard and pretend like you don't exist. Now, I highly doubt that any of you ever had to live in a cupboard under the stairs. But surely you can recognize that part of Harry Potter's story and the allegory where he has to diminish himself, where he has to make himself small so that he can fit in, so that he can belong at some level. And I think that on some level, we've all have these parts of ourselves that we have been prompted by caregivers, society, culture, parents, siblings, neighbors, communities. We've been parts of ourselves that we have been encouraged not to exhibit. And that can be a really tender place for a lot of us. Maybe it's that cultural idea: boys don't cry, girls don't get angry. Maybe it's, you're too sensitive. My couple of my favorites are, who do you think you are? Right? Who do you think you are? Or don't be so dramatic. I heard a lot of that. I definitely heard a lot of that. And so many of us have learned to put those parts of ourselves away to play small on some level, And anybody who's on the conscious path of awakening to this greater truth of life is absolutely recognizing that it isn't about diminishing parts of ourselves that has us experience wholeness. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. We know that when we consider this origin story of Harry Potter, his parents were killed by an evil wizard, and yet miraculously, as a little baby in a crib, he survives, and then he's left with his Muggle family. Anybody not know what a Muggle is? No, a Muggle is a non-wizard. That's the name that they use in the book. And so he's left to be brought up by this Muggle family, and they want desperately to be normal. And just before his 11th birthday, a letter arrives. And it's addressed to Harry. No, Harry never gets mail. And his cousin is quick to mention that. And his uncle sees it, that it's addressed to Harry Potter in the cupboard under the stairs. So we know it's not normal. How does anyone know where Harry Potter lives? And so his uncle rips it up really quickly. And yet another letter arrives the next day. And the uncle tries to destroy that. And then the letters start flying through the letterbox in the door. And the uncle tries to, he nails a piece of wood over the letterbox. He's determined to stop this abnormality from happening to his family. And then they come through the chimney by the dozens. He can't stop the letters from coming. And when we think about this idea of living consciously and continuing to evolve, those parts of us that we've disowned, they send us letters, don't they? They send us little letters to remind us of who we really are. And it is, our wholeness doesn't come from denying any part of ourselves. It doesn't come from pretending we are somebody we're not. It doesn't come from creating a persona that is not authentic to who we are. Ernest Holmes has this wonderful quote that's key to this week. He writes, and Ernest Holmes, if you're not familiar with, is the author of Science of Mind and the founder of this philosophy called Centers for Spiritual Living. And he writes, our word does not restore wholeness, it reveals it. So our prayers don't, our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, the main tools that we use to begin to create, to co-create with spirit and to change our lives, key to that is that we are not trying to fix anything. You are not lost. You are not broken. There is just some part of you that has not been revealed. And so Ernest Holmes is really clear here. And it's the centerpiece of our topic this week. That we don't, it isn't that we are weak. It isn't that we aren't strong. It's simply that there's something that we have placed in front of our wholeness. A perceived obstacle of some sort. But like our hero, Harry, we're taught to disown those parts because somebody decided, whoever somebody is, that we won't fit in if we're too sensitive or we're too dramatic or we're whatever we are. And so this idea of revealing wholeness is so important for us to embrace as we embrace this philosophy. It's important for us to understand that you are perfect, whole, and complete exactly as you are. And if you have parts of yourself that you are denying, well, I'm not suggesting that we pray them away. I'm suggesting that we integrate them. That we integrate those parts of ourselves that somebody somewhere decided wasn't normal. Because, as they say, normal is just a temperature gauge on the washing machine. There is no normal. And I'm certainly, as we live in this society that we see more and more of the human race and how people live, I mean, oh my God, some people they just stream everything they do, what they're having for dinner, the walk they had around the block, the clothes they're trying to decide to wear. I mean, it's more we see of each other, the more we recognize that there really is no normal. We all have this authentic nature to ourselves, and it's time for us to own that. It's time for us not to push it away because it's not like everyone else. That in that way, we just split ourselves apart, and we are denying our own inherent beauty and power and completeness. We don't manufacture wholeness. We reveal it. There's nothing you need to do to be whole. There's just something to be revealed. When I was coming up in this teaching, I came to it, this philosophy, like a fish to water. It just made so much sense to me. I was loving the technology of spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer. I understood how I could change my thinking and change my life, and I had a lot of wonderful things happen, and And I came to this place where I was just sort of at this plateau. Like, I almost wanted to say, is this as good as it gets? And is there anything more? And that is when I was introduced to a body of work that was created by Marcia Sutton and Lloyd Strom. And it's referred to by many names, co-creation. Marcia Sutton was the founder of the Christ Church of Co-Creation. She had a writing partner and teaching partner, Lloyd Strom, and they came up with this beautiful body of work. Sometimes you might know it because one piece is taught in a lot of our classes, and we refer to it as the Fear to Faith. And in the Fear to Faith process, we begin to see those obstacles that we have placed before our wholeness. And we learn how to shine the light on it so that obstacle gets integrated and dissolves. It just goes back from the nothingness where it came from. And we begin to reacquaint ourselves with our whole self. Ernest Holmes writes that faith and fear are the same energy, and that we can use either one. And this particular process in this body of work does this beautiful revealing process where we begin to let go of all the strategies we use to try to be like other people want us to be, when we let go of the fears that we have or the hidden beliefs that we have that are based on false beliefs, we begin to peel those away so that we come to our inherent wholeness. And for me, it was a game changer. It opened, I thought I had to pray everything away. And really what I needed to do was pray everything so that it could become conscious, illuminated by the light, and I could see the real, true wholeness of myself. That is an amazing, powerful gift. Who doesn't want that? Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. In that body of work, it's so much more than the Fear to Faith process. It really is. They have this process called the Coach to Anywhere, and they liken the coach to the self. And so if you can imagine that each of us is in our life, it's like a coach, and we have passengers sitting in the back seat, and they're kind of like backseat drivers. Yeah, I'm a backseat driver. Anybody know what I'm talking about? That person who tells you, turn left here, turn right there. Oh, you should have gone straight. And those passengers are the false beliefs that we have dropped back into our subconscious that are giving us directions based on a lot of hooey. Based on things that other people said we needed to be, or based on lies that we have accepted about ourselves. And so when we begin to become conscious of these passengers, well, we can dissolve their power by bringing the light to them so that we can come home to ourselves and that inner spirit, that light that lives within us. This is powerful work, my friends. This is powerful work. And if you have things that are continually repeating themselves, patterns that are happening in your life that you would like to see dissolved, well, there's a spiritual practice that you can use. And this is just one of them, and we teach many of them. There's spiritual practices that we can use to dissolve the false beliefs, to dissolve fears, to dissolve ideas that we're not enough, to dissolve this place in ourselves where we may not feel worthy, so that we can see the light within ourselves. And this is where changing your thinking really changes your lives. Yeah, anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, a lot of you know what I'm talking about. And so when we look at this idea of our inherent wholeness and the ways that we can come home to ourselves, we can begin to reveal, maybe it's your inner critic, and you reveal that inner critic and it becomes your strongest ally. Or maybe it's that's some anxious part of yourself that you've disowned, and when you bring it in, it becomes discernment. It transforms into something that can be useful and healthy to help your life move forward in positive and powerful ways. Perhaps it's your desire to withdraw, and it is that quiet nature of yours that transforms you into a brilliant listener. And so I want you to consider those disowned parts, those places in you that you may have, somebody somewhere told you a lie. And to consider that there is some wisdom beneath that, some wisdom waiting for you to reveal it. And you reveal it through your spiritual practice. And your spiritual practice can be, but I can give you the most complex spiritual practice. Come see me. Or we could do things that are really simple. And so this week, my invitation to you is a really simple one, and it's so powerful in its simplicity. And that is that the next time you need to make a decision, and I'm betting you'll need to make at least one decision this week. You'll probably make many decisions this week, but maybe it's a simple decision like, what am I going to have for dinner? Or maybe it's a big decision like, what am I going to do with my life? And so here's the practice. It's so simple. Pause and listen for the committee, the parts that are telling you you should do it, and the parts that are telling you you shouldn't do it. Listen to those disowned parts. It's going to be subtle, but listen to them, and then you don't have to fix it. You don't have to undo it. You don't have to unwrangle it. All you have to do is acknowledge it. Marcia Sutton was famous for saying, awareness is curative. Awareness is curative. So pause, listen to that inner committee, listen to the I shoulds and I shouldn'ts, listen to the part of me wants to and part of me doesn't, and maybe thank it. Just be grateful for how it helped you in the past and it doesn't need to help you anymore. Grateful for the way it protected you in the past and you don't need protection anymore. Or grateful that you still need a little protection and so it's there to remind you. Like that is the beauty of paying attention to our thinking, paying attention to our feelings in our heart, allowing ourselves to remember that there is no part of you that is bad. There's no part of anyone that's bad. It's just disowned. And so my invitation for you is to get to know it, to invite it in, to be grateful for it, and then to see what happens. Thank you very much. So I have a spell for you. No. I didn't bring my wand, but let's go ahead and do a little prayer, shall we? Some affirmative prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes or lower your gaze. And allow your heart to open. And allow your mind to quiet. And just remember that place in you that is forever whole, that is forever complete, that is the microcosm of the macrocosm of the one divine, infinite reality that is pouring itself into life, and it is pouring itself into you. And so I know for each one that this one infinite reality is always conspiring for our greatest good. And so it is with an open heart, and it is with a boatload of trust that I pause that I pay attention to this one infinite reality, this divine source that is forever sourcing each one with its divinity, forever sourcing each one with an inherent wholeness that cannot be denied. And so I know for each one that we allow the light of the one to pour through us into our lives, into our situations, into our relationships, into our circumstances, so that we can see that wholeness clearly. And so I know for each one that that inherent wholeness continues to send us letters after letters after letters, reminding us of our perfection. Not the human definition of perfection, but the divine's definition of perfection. As we accept what is, as we accept that it is all part of our completion, our wholeness, our oneness with the divine. And so it's with gratitude that I know this highest truth for each one. It is with gratitude that I know that each one is indeed listening to that still small voice that is reminding us that there is no normal, that there is no it should be. It is just God expressing its individuated self as each one. And as we accept that expression as God in ourselves and each other and in all that we see in all of creation, I trust that each one is lifted up, inspired to see their own wholeness. And so it is with a grateful heart that I speak this word, that I turn it back over to principle, that I know that spiritual laws are at work and that all I have to do, all each one has to do, is be aware, to allow, and to be ourselves. And together we say, and so it is.